With a mean grin, the young man, Lian, the husband of the princess, said that he used the heroine to achieve his goal. The beginning of it all was an illegitimate child from another woman, who was named Stan. It continued with the ashen-haired beauty, the mother of this child, Celestia, being brought into the house. Due to the emotional load, the heroine fell ill. For this reason, Lian tried to kick her out. There was no more room for the heroine, the first princess, Liliana Dragnia. Realizing that the princess was only a puppet in the hands of her husband over a cup of tea, Liliana demanded a divorce. Lighting a cigarette, Lian said that divorce was unacceptable, still looking at Dragnia with the same mean smile. The princess did not have time to answer. Liliana was poisoned, Lian arranged everything, and the poison was added to the tea that Dragnia drank during the conversation. Liliana, having found herself in the past after death, decided for herself that she would achieve everything on her own and take revenge on everyone. After burying her fifth husband, the princess saw another chance and did not want to miss it. To carry out her plan, Liliana needed Archduke Dietrich Winchester, whom even the imperial family could not disrespect. Looking confidently at Dietrich and putting her hand on her chest, the princess asked to be made a duchess. It began at the funeral of the princess's fifth husband. Standing at her husband's coffin, the princess heard people calling her a witch. Sitting down by the coffin, the princess thought that she wanted to return to her room. It was clear from her eyes that she was exhausted. But once the princess was called the most noble and beautiful flower of the empire. But in just a year, in the eyes of people, she turned into a witch. In the first groove, the princess, who dreamed of a happy marriage, got married by order of her father. The princess's dreams were shattered to smithereens after the death of her first husband. The other 4 husbands suffered the same fate. Each time, the emperor was furious and personally searched for the culprit in death. The princess cried on her father's shoulder with grief. Rumors that Liliana was a witch drove the girl to death. The emperor, Fernando Dragnia, who loved and worried about his daughter, could only calm her down. Looking innocently at her father, Liliana asked who the killer was this time, or Fernand would not tell her again. Pressing the princess's hand to his chest, the emperor said that the truth could hurt her, and now she should be strong. When Fernand said that Liliana should organize her next wedding again, the princess was taken aback. The emperor, looking at the princess, said that Liliana needed to show how happy she could be in marriage. The princess asked if the empress wished it, thinking that she might well hate Liliana. Waving it off, the emperor said that the heroine had an erroneous opinion about the empress. Looking down sadly, Dragnia wondered if she was really mistaken. The emperor called Lian, and he entered the room, taking a handkerchief from the inside pocket of his jacket. Taking out a handkerchief, Lian began to wipe the tears from Liliana's face. The princess looked at him in surprise, kissing the handkerchief with which he wiped the princess's tears. Lian smiled at her, looking softly at Liliana. Looking firmly at his daughter, the emperor said that he would try to protect their union because they were both dear to him. Looking at her father uncomprehendingly, Liliana thought about her father's words, trying to understand what he was talking about. With his hand on his heart, Lian agreed to the emperor's request to explain to the princess what he was talking about. Leaving them alone, Fernand departed, and Lian began to explain the emperor's speech to the princess. Lian said that remembering the princess's birthday like yesterday was like yesterday, that the whole palace rejoiced at this event, and Lian has long kept the princess in his heart. Liliana was perplexed. She was stupefied by the news that Lian loved her. Taking Dragnia by the hand, Lian said that he would not leave the princess and would not allow her to be left alone. Holding the princess's hand, Lian asked what Liliana thought about this. The princess didn't know what to say to that. Looking sideways, the princess said that it was indecent to talk about such things at her husband's funeral. As she left, the princess added that the people thought she was a witch who had killed 5 husbands. Wiping the tears from the princess's face, the emperor said that the opinion of the people should not hurt her. No matter what anyone said, Liliana was the princess of this empire, but the princess only thought that she did not want to get married. The emperor said that he would use Winchester's army if needed to defend Lian and Liliana. The princess wondered why he hadn't done it sooner. Taking Liliana's hands, Fernand said that if such a fate befell Liana, he would never tell Liliana to marry again. Looking at Liliana compassionately, the emperor said that he wished his daughter happiness. He asked if she could trust him for the last time. Looking confidently at her father, Dragnia thought that if she trusted Fernando, there would be no next time. Bowing his head and putting his hand to his chest, Leon said that he understood the princess's confusion. Liliana began to be prepared for the wedding. Her face was not on her while she was combed and decorated with accessories. When the maids called the princess beautiful, she hesitated, looking up gloomily. The princess wondered if they really thought so. Following the maids, the princess met Archduke Dietrich, who was passing by. One of the princess's hairpins fell out of her hair and hit the floor with a noise. The princess turned to the knock of the hairpin. Turning around, Liliana saw the Archduke crouching on one knee. He was picking up her hairpin. Standing up, Winchester held out his hand with a hairpin in it to the princess. The princess looked at him, raising her head. Dietrich was a few heads taller than Liliana. The princess remembered the last day of the funeral. It was there that she first saw him. Dragnia could not take her eyes off him. The thought flashed through her mind that he was the most beautiful person she had ever seen. Bowing her head, the princess thanked Dietrich, thinking that her thoughts about him had not changed since that day. The Duke was a little taken aback at first, but then, clenching his lips, he bowed and silently left, continuing to walk where he had originally been going. Calmly looking after Winchester, the princess thought that she was sure that he could talk. Dragnia looked down and thought that Winchester's army would defend the place. Remembering her father's words, the princess closed her eyes, wondering if she would be happy if Leon survived. The princess continued to walk on. Leon was waiting for her at the entrance to the hall, light pouring from the door. The next day, Leon did not die. Liliana was happy for the first time she met her morning with her husband. Soon news came that Leon received the title and land holdings of the Marquise by order of the Emperor. Looking at the princess and Leon, people whispered if this case was unprecedented. Putting his hand on the princess's shoulder, Leon said that his low title would be unfavorable to her. Liliana was alerted by this situation. When Leon said that this was simply the emperor's concern for his daughter, Liliana smiled. The emperor continued to bestow gifts on Leon. Liliana, looking up, wondered why she did not feel happy. Looking down, Dragnia tried to convince herself that she was just tired because the happy marriage was preserved. Calling Dragnia, Leon entered the chambers, presenting a young boy to Liliana's eyes. Looking resolutely and confidently at his wife, Leon declared that she was his child. Liliana was taken aback, looking at Leon with open eyes. This news shocked her. Trembling, Liliana asked Leon again, and then looked at the boy. He was an exact copy of Leon. Holding his head, Leon said that he understood if the princess was angry, but explained that his mother was dead and had nothing in life. Glaring angrily at Dragnia, Leon said that the princess knew he could not have children, leading to the fact that she was the last child of his kind. Clutching the hem of her dress, the princess remembered that Leon had been diagnosed with infertility due to an incident in the battle, but she thought that he would never be able to conceive a child. When Leon announced that he wanted to add him to their family registry, Liliana was taken aback. Liliana was trembling with anger. She didn't understand how Leon could do this to her. The boy looked at the princess pitifully, pursing his lips, Liliana thinking only that there was a hierarchical system in the country and he needed its permission. Covering her face with her hand, the princess realized that no matter how Leon behaved because of the system, he could not show his anger to Liliana. Liliana ordered Mary to take Stan away and bring him something to eat, and the maid bowed and obediently began to carry out the order. As she led the child away, Mary turned around and looked at the princess, Liliana still covering her face, looking gloomy. Approaching Dragnia, Leon took her by the shoulders, asking if she would accept Stan. As she watched the letter with the child's situation being taken away, the princess wondered if the emperor would be angry with Leon when he found out and whether he would punish him. In the letter, the princess asked what Fernand thought, but he only gave his permission. Lighting a cigarette, Leon said that he would do his best for his son and Liliana. Holding the letter in her hands, the princess squeezed it, trembling. She thought that her father would take her side. At first, the princess even tried to make friends with the boy, accepting him. Saying that he could go to the princess if he wanted something, Stan said that he missed his mother. It was then that the princess realized that the boy would not consider her his mother. Later, Leon said that he wanted to bring the boy's mother to the palace. Liliana was stunned. Leon sat with his arms crossed over his chest. Liliana didn't understand anything because he had said that Stan's mother was dead. Leon said that she was alive. Liliana was furious, asking if he lied in order for Liliana to adopt the boy. Leon replied by saying that he had no choice. If he told the truth, the princess would not accept him. Now, the princess understood why Stan was always talking about her mother, because she was alive. Leon only asked for a wing so that Stan could see Celestia occasionally. Liliana's face darkened. She didn't like the situation. The princess wondered what he thought of her. After waiting for a pause, Liliana said that she would send a letter to her father. She was depressed by Leon's behavior. Drinking tea, Leon informed Liliana that he had already received permission from the emperor. Liliana was shocked. She did not understand why her father was taking Leon's side. Soon, Celestia arrived at the palace and took over the wing. She behaved like a marquise, but the princess could not stop her. Placing her hand on the necklace around her neck, Celestia asked if it suited her, adding that Leon had given it to her. Looking out the window at night, Liliana thought about how her broken heart had begun to destroy her body. Liliana was completely thin. Every day she fell asleep with the thought that she wanted to fall asleep and not wake up again so as not to see this abomination. Sitting up in bed, Liliana looked towards the door and asked why Leon had come to see her. Grinning maliciously, Leon said that there were no places in the palace that called his home that he could not enter. Coming closer, Leon suggested that Liliana go south so that the disease would pass. Slapping Leon's arm, the princess began to shout that Celestia was already acting like a hostess, asking if she wanted the main mansion as well. Throwing up his hands, Leon said that Celestia had only taken over Liliana's duties because the princess was ill. Hearing Leon's question about why Celestia was to blame for the destruction of the family, Liliana was furious. Realizing that Leon would deny that it was all for the sake of the princess's health, Liliana pursed her lips. She realized that they were trying to kick her out. When Liliana announced that she wanted a divorce, Leon was taken aback, his face contorted in incomprehension and anger. After the words about the divorce, the princess's condition began to improve, and Leon began to visit Liliana more often, which she did not like at all, and Dragnia asked her to stop harassing him. Leon did not like this behavior at all, and he was furious. Liliana's long visits irritated Liliana, and her head ached from irritation. Trying to win back Liliana's favor, Leon said that spending a lot of time together was normal for a husband and wife. Liliana understood that Leon was afraid of divorce, because then he would lose everything, including the status of his illegitimate son. Looking down, the princess thought that no matter how hard he tried, everything was already decided. Looking at Liana, the princess said that no matter what he did, Liliana would not change her mind. Looking at Dragnia anxiously, Leon said that he understood that forgiveness could not be earned in 1 week, and he would try more to correct his mistakes. After drinking tea, the princess calmly said that her decision was immeasurable. Leon had nothing to answer. He just looked at the princess pitifully, saying that it was difficult to change someone's decision. After drinking tea, Liliana thought about whether she even began to feel something some days from Leon's care, but she did not understand if it was love. Placing the cup on the saucer, Liliana said that as soon as everything calmed down after the divorce, they could do whatever they wanted in the main mansion. But she could not finish her thoughts. Blood came out of her mouth. Raising her hands, Liliana looked at the blood on her clothes. Lighting a cigarette, Leon said that he had warned her, looking haughtily at the princess, that divorce was impossible. Looking at the blood on her hands, the princess was horrified. Her eyes swam. Leon looked at Liliana angrily, saying that divorce was impossible, at least because his son should not be the son of a prostitute. Dragnia could no longer answer clearly. The poison spread through her body, suffocating. Liliana spoke in fragments that the emperor would definitely do something. Leaning over the table, Leon mockingly asked if she still trusted her father. When Liliana heard about the question if she suspected anything after the death of her fifth husband, Liliana looked at Leon in shock. Looking at the princess haughtily, Leon wished her dead, saying that she was too stupid to understand anything. Bending over Liliana, Leon told her that the princess had always been just an instrument. Leon explained that the emperor had worked hard to grow Dragnia into a tool to satisfy his greed and get rid of his enemies. After lighting a cigarette, Leon said that he was surprised that Liliana did not know that all of her husbands were from the anti-emperor party. Taking a lock of Liliana's hair in his hands, Leon said that he only needed the title of heroine. Leon said that it was all just for Stan's sake. It all started with Liliana's mother dying of a poison that was intended for the emperor. Leon went on to explain that he had taken advantage of the emperor's paranoia to destroy all his enemies, and Liliana had proven to be the perfect tool. Continuing to tell, Leon mentioned that it would be good to get rid of Archduke Dietrich, but he would soon be dealt with. Stretching his hand forward, Leon said that he would have told more, but Liliana had no more time. Dropping a cigarette next to the body of the deceased princess, Leon asked if it was not wonderful that she had finally found the freedom she had long dreamed of. The maid ran up to Liliana, but it was too late. The princess's eyes were swimming, looking at the servant. Dragnia wondered if everything could have been different. Falling to her knees in front of the princess, lifting her head off the floor, Mary began to cry as she hugged Liliana. Screaming, Liliana woke up in bed in a cold sweat, clutching the blanket in her hands. She stared at the ceiling in horror. Taking a sitting position, the princess, looked around the room. Looking blankly at the empty room, the princess tried to understand how this could happen. The princess was shocked, wondering if it was all a dream, touching her face and neck. Getting out of bed, the princess thought about the fact that she continues to dream after death. When the princess sat down on the corner of the bed, Mary came into the room and told her that Liliana had to go to the funeral. Calling Mary by name, Liliana remembered that this maid was the only one who mourned Dragnia's death. Sitting on the bed, Liliana called the maid to her. Mary obediently approached the princess. Opening the curtains, Mary asked if the princess had a nightmare. Liliana's face was pale. Looking at the maid, Liliana asked about where she was now. The princess's gaze was firm. Smiling softly, Mary said that they were in the residence of Viscount Barley. Getting out of bed, the princess asked if Viscount Barley's funeral was taking place. Looking awkwardly at the princess, the maid confirmed Liliana's assumption. Pursing her lips, Liliana thought that she was right. She had really gone back in time. Abruptly and unexpectedly, the room burst into the princess's laughter. Liliana was amused by this situation. Mary was concerned about the princess's behavior. Her laughter seemed strange to the servant. Falling abruptly silent, the princess asked Mary to call all the maids. She said that the guests should not be kept waiting. Confidently moving forward, Liliana thought that the whole situation was familiar to her. She remembered this day. 158. Opening the doors, Liliana went into the hall. The princess looked around. The room looked the same. Seeing the mirror, Dragnia came closer to it, looking at her face. She wondered about her appearance, if she had always shone like this. Raising her hand closer to her face, the princess thought that now it was more important to find out how she got into the past and why. After thinking for a while, the princess remembered Leon's words about the instrument. She remembered that Leon proposed to her in this hall. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Liliana turned around and saw Fernand behind her. After bowing, Liliana greeted the emperor, who was smiling at her. Looking up, the princess looked at the emperor. She thought that nothing had changed. Even Leon was standing behind him in the same way. Looking at the emperor, saying the same words as in the past, she looked at Leon, who was smiling confidently. Listening to her father, the princess reasoned whether he really used her for his own purposes or whether Leon deliberately lied to make Liliana more painful. Smiling at Fernando, the princess thought and resigned herself to reality. After all, it cannot be avoided. Remembering the past, Liliana thought that in this life she must take revenge. Looking firmly at the emperor, the princess confidently stated that she had no intention of getting married. She had no intention of repeating her past mistakes. The emperor looked at his daughter uncomprehendingly, asking what she was talking about. Looking at her father, the princess said that she did not say that she would not marry at all, but she was not going to do it right now. After all, the funeral of her ex-husband was not over yet. Fernand said that the princess had no reason to be afraid of discussing people, but Liliana, taking her father's hand, said that she considered the discussion of the wedding at the funeral to be immoral behavior. She asked to show at least a little respect for her ex-husband. Looking resolutely at her father, the princess understood that it looked strange because she used to indulge her father, and now she complicates everything. Tilting his head to the side, the emperor asked how much time Liliana needed for mourning. Thinking that her plan had worked, the princess asked for a month, which she said should be enough. Sitting in the carriage with Lian, Fernand asked if Dragnia's behavior did not seem strange to him. Recalling the image of his daughter, the emperor said that she looked more gloomy than usual. The emperor was gloomy, wondering how long Liliana had been in this state. Thinking that Liliana was acting strange because she had become close to someone, the emperor asked if the report had come from Mark. Looking at the emperor, Lian thought that it was Liliana's watcher, and he put his hand to his chest and replied that there had been no report. Fernand asked if the temple had said anything, to which he received a negative answer. The temple was silent. On Liliana's birthday, the temple received a prophecy that the first star that fell to earth would give birth to flames that would condemn the king.
Like this video. Hit the like button and subscribe for more videos.